All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Tyler Jacobson, Director of Marketing here at Forby. This is office hours, which we intend to do on a monthly basis. And it's going to be your opportunity to ask us any marketing questions that you might have, any branding questions or content questions. I'll let my counterparts here introduce themselves.
Going good?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Aaron Rosenbluth. I'm our Director of Content. So that means I oversee the the whole world of content is underneath my umbrella. So, there's Matt.
Matt Gillespie, VP of Creative. So work very closely with these guys and a full team of creative masterminds, branding, web development, really everything visual and creative you see coming out of our agency.
So you can ask us any questions that you have at all in apropos of nothing around marketing to make sure that this is interesting for anybody who might be tuning in. We have some topics that we want to go over, and today it's about the most expensive paid search term in 2024 and how it relates to channel marketing. So you guys said that you wanted to guess about the term. I'm going to challenge you to guess what the term is, and then give me just kind of a ballpark of what you think it's costing.
That part's tough.
Yeah.
I know, especially since it's not your discipline. Be interesting to see what.
So when I was trying to think about what it could be, my head went to what is a problem that a lot of people face, like an emergency situation. So I went with plumbing. Something related to plumbing, like plumber near me, 24-hour plumber, plumbing related.
Okay, and then how much do you think that would cost? You don't have to be dead on.
Yeah,
there's no prizes involved.
I have no idea, honestly. So I'm going to throw out a number and $20.
$20. Okay.
Oh, this is a really hard question. Since you posed it earlier, I've been trying to think of what I think. Plumbing had not occurred to me at all. Honestly, my brain is a little blank on it. There's just so many possible avenues for some strange reason. And this might have to do with my role in this company. I keep wanting to think that it's some kind of search related to social media.
Okay.
But
how to social media?
How to social media?
And what range would you put how to social media?
$40. How to social media?
Well, so you guys will both be surprised to find you're wrong on all counts.
Okay.
All right. I kind of assume.
There's different answers to this question online. I'm throwing out the most extreme one here, which was truck collision attorney, and that cost per click was $1,003. That was
truck collision attorney.
Okay, now the one that I saw in 2023 that I'm also seeing in 2024, and it's in the same ballpark as regarding price, was motorcycle injury lawyer. And that was going for $201 a click. $201.
What was the top one? What was the price of the truck?
$1,003.
Wow.
Truck collision attorney. Now I haven't validated any of this. I haven't gone in and seen how much it would cost.
You know what's funny about this? I think I watch more morning. I'm admittedly a news junkie, but I think I watch the morning news, and you guys, I don't know if you guys.
I do not watch the morning news.
So if you watch the morning news in Colorado, and I bet that it's similar elsewhere. For the last several years, you get constant Franklin D. Azar, who's an attorney in Colorado, commercials, and they're constantly talking about getting hit by a big truck. And this is just kind of blowing my mind because I've been commenting to my wife every morning, wow. Something about getting hit by a big truck. It's really popular to get. So it's amazing that's the top search.
The more I think about this now, I think it's driven completely by the ticket value of somebody calling your practice. What's the possible financial gain of getting that case versus, I guess, a plumber. Yeah, you beat out your plumbing competitors, and what, $2,000 for a water heater repair,
right? Right, wherever that margin is, right? And so that's going to go back to, and so you're already putting us on the track of where I wanted to go in this discussion, which is thinking about cost per acquisition and then how much margin you're going to get. Is that cost per acquisition? Yeah, it's high, but also how much can you make if you're actually participating in there.
Sure.
And so the CPA for and again, we're going to go with the $200 motorcycle injury attorney, those keywords costing $200. If they convert somebody on every single click, then that cost per acquisition is $201, and that's probably pretty darn good. Reality is they probably are converting about 10% of people who click on that. So now their cost per acquisition is going to go up to $2,000. And by the way, this isn't based on industry stats or anything. I'm just, I'm trying to create a model here because you're not going to be lucky enough to be getting a client every time they click on your ad.
Sure.
So it's 201 for the click, but then we're going to go ahead and put the cost per acquisition into the 2000s range. So injury attorneys are probably going to make more than $2,000 on that client.
I'm sure.
Right? So you put, $2,000 in. Are you going to get $40,000 back? Are you going to get $20,000 back? And if you can get that positive ROI, then you have a functional business.
Sure. Getting
revenue, right? And you've got a lot of visibility in that space. And that's the other thing is when you bid $201 for that term, there's going to be a large group of people who are not clicking on that ad, but you're still getting that visibility. So if you're still showing up in there, right.
And in all likelihood, in that region, they're seeing the name elsewhere because these attorneys that do this are also running billboards, commercials. They're all over.
Right. So now you've got more in your marketing mix, right?
Yes.
And so now if you buy a billboard, and again, if you only buy one billboard, and let's say that billboard's $5,000 a month, which would be pretty cheap, right? But you have to add that into your cost per acquisition, but you're also putting another thing into your marketing mix. And like you said, if I already know Frank Azar's name, which we didn't have to look it up, we already know Frank Azar's name.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've had to call Frank Azar? 0.
Same.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. Well, unless you get hit by a big truck.
Exactly. So yeah, you have more in your marketing mix and then your cost per acquisition is going up. But again, what you're looking for is still that margin. Now, because we're thinking about Frank Azar, dude probably needs to be paying us at this point. I think we need to send him this video and then see if we can cash in. But because we're thinking of him, because we already know the name, because he's been marketing to us for years, if we see him pop up amongst those search results, we might be inclined to click it because we know, or my sense of it is, and you guys might not share this, my sense is that he's probably a pretty legit attorney because I haven't heard bad things about him. I do know his name, and he's been advertising for a long time.
For 20 plus years. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a credibility built in there, right?
Yep.
Everybody else in that list is going to have to compete with Frank Azar for my business. Now, I can see a reason why I wouldn't go with Frank Azar because he has all this money that he's spending into his marketing mix, and boy, I don't want to spend that money.
Sure.
Right? Like, I don't want to go broke doing that. I might pick somebody lesser known, but my results also have to adjust to that moment.
I'd be inclined to think that if I did that search right now, I would subconsciously recognize a name and not really know how I remember that name. And it could have been a billboard or a commercial or something that I passed or just didn't pay any attention to, but somehow it was embedded in my mind. And I would probably go that direction versus somebody that I was like, oh, I've heard that guy before. I can picture his commercials or their commercials. And
right. So there might be something where you have brand awareness, but it's more on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
But it gives you that sense of like, I feel some security because I've heard of this person before and not in a negative context. Right. So now what happens to the injury attorney who's like only willing to spend $2,000 a month total on ads?
They're not going to be able to compete with Franklin D. Azar.
Right.
Yeah.
They might not even go ahead.
I think that they should maybe invest their money elsewhere outside of paid search.
Okay. Tell.
I don't know what the tactic would be, but if they're only willing to spend that much, then they're really limiting the amount of clicks or times that they're seen. Their ads aren't going to be displayed quite as frequently as other people that are spending way more. So maybe that $2,000 is better spent
somewhere where they can get more
better
visibility.
Except for the fact that search is going to be where your consideration audience is.
No,
and I think that maybe the weeds we're going in here are going, I'm going to ask us to step out of it in a second, because in B2B and especially in tech channel, I mean, we haven't seen search be a real driver of business. Your audiences aren't there.
Referral and events, a lot of events.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I guess the moral of the story that I'm trying to get to here is, for motorcycle injuries, people looking for attorneys, we can probably safely say that where that market is making decisions, intent-based decisions, is in search. And if you're not willing to show up with the budget to be spending $201 a click, you're not where the market is, and you're not where they're making their decisions. And so your ability to actually capture that audience, you could be the best attorney in the world. You might win every case, but if you're not willing to be visible where those people are making intent-based decisions, where the market is making intent-based decisions, you may as well be invisible. Right. And so they could even be in search, but I only want to spend $40 a click because that seems expensive. Right. That means you're never going to be.
You might as well. That's kind of where you were going. Where we've talked about this often. Like, you might as well not spend that money at all, or go spend it somewhere else, because you're just throwing money down a hole if you're not willing to pay to be competitive.
Yeah, and I think you guys have heard it from me before. Like, do you want to lose $10 or do you want to make $3,001?
Yeah,
because you're spending $3,000 and you're getting some sort of return versus losing $10 because you feel like you can afford to lose that.
Right.
So that is really kind of where I wanted to go with that. And it applies to any industry, to be quite frank. But I did a blog post on this. My most recent blog post on 4B is just exactly about this scenario too, which is, your prospects are not hard to find. They are where that market is making that decision.
Yeah, they're exactly where you expect them to be.
Right. And if you go there and you're like, well, this is too expensive, there has to be some sort of other secondary way to get to this market and get the same results, it's a fallacy. And it wasn't always a fallacy. In the early days of paid search and even SEO, there was opportunity to get in there and find these really niche terms where the market actually was happening that nobody else had found yet. But I myself have been on the internet since the 90s. Okay, we've had a lot of time for all of this to mature, and a lot of time for that thinking to have been, given to every single marketer out there. So much so that they're still believing it, even though everybody has this information and the market is now squarely where the market is. We know where it is.
You're reminding me of something that we used to talk about like many years ago. Like, I'm talking about eight years ago, where I was 8 years ago, I was obsessed with this idea of the search before the search.
Yes.
Like the elusive thing that the person, your persona, your audience is looking for before they realize that they have the problem that you can solve. That's a very convoluted way of explaining.
I can say it in a simpler way.
Yeah.
And it's because Jess on our team she and I were just having this conversation, and she said it in a really succinct way. And I'm like, I've got to bring this to Matt and Aaron.
Yeah.
Which is problem marketing versus solution marketing. And so solution marketing is now they've defined the problem they have. Now they're looking for a solution. And what you're speaking of is before you ever have the problem, maybe even when symptoms are showing up, that's where I want to be. So I can help you define the problem and then offer you the solution
and also solve it.
If you take that back to any channel marketing, right? Or honestly, B2B marketing, that's where salespeople are supposed to be there, right? They're building that relationship before somebody actually needs that solution. They're making sure that at that moment, when that moment comes where they suddenly do have that problem and they need a solution, they already know.
You're the obvious choice. And which, if we go back to the attorney thing, Franklin DAs aren't going to use them. Hey, we're giving, you should pay us. That could be 20 years. Like, he's been marketing to us for 20 years to be there at the moment that we need him. Right. Like, I've been developing that awareness for a long time, and now I need him. He's my guy. I've been hearing about him for 20 years.
Right. And now this is B2C, right? So he has to cast his net wide and make sure that anybody who could possibly need an attorney in the future knows his name. Yeah. When they're sitting there in their jail cell and they have to, I'm going to call my lawyer. Who's your lawyer? They're like, the big gun. What is this? The strong arm.
The strong arm, right? The strong. I'm pretty sure there's a strong arm in every state.
But again, but that's because we're the market, and he's spent a lot of time investing in being that market and being the de facto answer, right? And it's been done through billboards, TV ads, radio ads, search ads. Right?
Everywhere.
Right. Now, there's other attorneys who are just going to go through the single channel of search. When they do that, search has to be enough to sustain their business. It has to be enough to be able to bring in those people at that cost per acquisition and allow them to have a thriving business. But Franklin D. Azar, the strong arm, he's still going to have more. He's still going to have a leg up there because he spent all that time in all those other channels as well, which creates that validation.
Yeah.
But again, what I'm talking about though is going back to that blog post. The market is exactly where you think it is. And if you're sitting there looking at your market and you're like, well, it's too expensive for us to play in that space. Well, one, it's too expensive not to play in that space, right? You're not going to have a growing business if you're not where the market is. And two, and this is going to sound kind of callous and a bit unrealistic, but it's true. That's why banks exist. You go out there to get that investment. And yes, it puts you in the hole, but Amazon operated for 20 years without a profit. And they did it with a lot of intention. And now we see where they are. They're, one of the biggest marketplaces in the world. They supply the federal government. They supply tech. I mean, they just do all of these different things, and there's just money coming in hand over fist.
Right.
So that's my takeaway. Or if you're looking at your market, where your market is, and you're saying it's too expensive, it's just too expensive not to play there. But that's where you have to play. You're not going to be able to circumvent where the market is and find the market.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. It's amazing how people. It's almost like if you're unwilling to invest in where your leads really are, then should you be in business?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You might be sitting there struggling, and like, man, I can't compete against that Goliath. And it's like, well, that Goliath is that Goliath
because they were willing to do this.
They're in the mix.
Right?
Yeah. And so, there's more to it than just that, especially in the B2B space. Actually, if we're going to go with the B2B space and we're going to go with this idea, people buy from people they know and like and trust, right?
Right.
And so that's that investment, right? So your unique value proposition, maybe you look like everybody else in this space, which we know that sometimes that's the truth. But then your unique value proposition is it's me.
Right.
And we know each other and we liked each other and we've been investing in each other. I've been investing in your business and learning that. And we've developed a relationship. And now you know who you want to build a website, right?
Right.
It's Matt.
Right.
Because, he does a great job and he actually, he's a friend. And so I want to give that business to him. But are salespeople too expensive? I mean, they shouldn't be too expensive. They should be able to go out there and drum up enough business. Right. Give you a positive ROI. But yes, it's an investment. It's not a cost, but ideally it's an investment in being where the market is. Yeah. That's what I got. So that's where that's where I was going with that whole most expensive keyword.
I love that. I never thought about it.
I never would have guessed it, but after hearing it, started to make the connection. And it's like, they're making a lot for every lead that they get or every click that they get. There's an opportunity to make a significant amount. So of course, why wouldn't they pay $1,000 a click, whatever,
Yeah. And again, so when you get that, and that's the other thing is it's like, that's going to eat into your margin. The more cost per acquisition you have, the less money you get to take home. But it's how you're going to have money to take home in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, every case that they land and win opens up another channel, referral business, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So,
and if somebody needs an attorney today, maybe they're the kind of person who might need an attorney tomorrow, right?
Sure.
And so then you start getting into lifetime value. And actually, when we're talking about the channel and we're talking about B2B, I mean, that is one of the great things about that is it almost looks like a subscription service because you're going to more likely than not be able to continue to sell to that person year after year, quarter after quarter. So now maybe your customer acquisition cost is the same amount as 2 months of that person being your customer, right? So
Right.
you only make profit after that 2 months, but now you're going to have somebody, you
For
know,
life,
if you
yeah,
can keep them
ideally.
around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. We didn't really announce this, that we were going to go and do this office hours
have
thing.
any
So I didn't expect any questions, but
I don't see any, right?
Yeah,
I don't
see
think
any.
anybody's doing it, but that's okay. Maybe nobody's even watching, and that's all right too.
Oh, we've been muted the whole time. Just kidding.
That's what we get for a test run.
Can we?
What?
Are we able to see?
I don't think so through this program, but there we go. Okay, so we're planning on doing this for 4B marketing once a month.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to promote it a little bit. Maybe we'll even get it up on the mailing list. So if you're interested in watching this again and maybe even participating, go to 4bmarketing.com and we have a newsletter. Yes.
Click
Well,
here
we're-
for cheese.
I think we're, yeah. Go to 4bmarketing.com and you can sign up for the newsletter at the bottom, or you can go to contact and get in touch with us directly.
All right.
See you next time.